Yes.
Good afternoon and welcome to a Friday afternoon live stream from Grays of Westminster.
Hello.
Hello, I am Becky.
Constantine.
You know us. You know who we are. Today we are talking about exotic Nikon lenses. I don't know if you can see because the big microphone box thingy is like right in the front of the view.
Shall we
there.
move it? And then I'm just going to ruin the whole audio.
You can do it without causing an explosion. We have a selection of lenses on the front here that we're going to talk about today, and a few others in between. There were a few that you guys were mentioning in the comments. We'll certainly try and pick up some of those comments in a bit, but some good suggestions there from the group.
From what I understood, Nikon made some lenses.
They did.
And some of them are unusual.
Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, I like this. So Norm says that his rarest Nikon lens is the 500 f8. I'm guessing that, yes, that's the mirror lens. That's the one that I was looking, reflex Nikkor.
Oh, yes.
So, yes, if maybe not right now, because I'm trying to go through the comments, but at some point, please do tell us what your rarest lens is. If you have one, we'd be interested to know. We can talk about those a little bit. Now, don't forget that you can contribute to the coffee fund.
Is it here?
I don't know. I've been told by different people it's in different places.
It chooses its own place.
Every screen. So please contribute to the coffee fund here, here, and here, and your exits are to your nearest left. That's super chat. Super chat if you can. If you're not logged into YouTube, then you can contribute via PayPal. Goodness and gracious knows that I need coffee today.
Oh yes,
we all need coffee. Affogato.
Affogato.
There is actually, if you are coming to Pimlico, the roasting across the road have just brought out the gelato.
Yes.
So I'm ready. My body is ready.
Pimlico is now being called Little Italy.
That's right. Yeah. It's anyway. So we are open for appointments. We've had a very busy morning, which is why we seem slightly frazzled. But we're ready to dive in, aren't we?
Absolutely. Buckle up.
Please give us a thumbs up also and a subscribe, because I noticed there are 100 of you. Thank you for joining us here, but not enough likes in the old like pot, if that's a thing. Thank you to Adrian for contributing to the coffee fund.
Thank you.
I just realized that I turned the glass off. There it is.
Here it is.
I know what I'm doing. All right, so first up, we are going to talk about the biggest lens here on this table, because the actual biggest lens is not on the table.
Okay.
We're going to talk about that one.
All
you know what that is?
Yes, it's 8mm f2.8.
Yay. So that's a fisheye. Now, this lens is enormous. Can you see that? Yeah. Get a feel for it. Actually, that worked quite well. It has built-in filters, obviously, because it was designed for film. A lot of these bigger sort of fisheye lenses had built-in filters because there was no way to put a filter on there, really. And they would most commonly be used for black and white photography or film photography, so having built-in filter, very, very handy. Look at that domed front element. So it's quite a rare lens. We don't see, well, I say quite a rare lens. It's not as rare as some of the other things that we've got on this table, but we don't see them all that often. I don't think that it's one that everybody just happens to have in their kit bag.
I have two.
You have two. It produces a 180-degree full circular image. Did you know that?
I did.
Oh, good.
I've read the internet 5 minutes before the stream.
Excellent. And not that I usually quote Ken, but I did think it was quite interesting. He said it was their standard fisheye between 1970 and 1997. That was like one of the standard fisheye lenses.
8mm 2.8.
Yeah, which I found kind of interesting.
Not 16mm.
No, I mean, there is the 16mm, yes, is not very rare, but yes. But the 16mm is also not full circular.
That's true.
So maybe he meant by that it was their sort of go-to full circular image fisheye.
That's true.
Not sure.
And it's interesting because they made the circular fisheyes for quite some time, and they discontinued them.
That's right.
And then only recently, about 2-3 years ago, we were introduced to another fisheye zoom, which is 8-15, which would produce a circular image.
Yeah, so the 8-15 kind of takes the best from the 8mm all the way to the 16mm fisheye, not quite. In fact, Dixon points out that his rare-ish lens is the 8-15, and I know that Nick has one as well. That is a lovely lens. And incidentally, Nikon are doing 10% off some lenses for like the next week
Oh, that's nice.
until the 28th.
Okay.
So that's one of the lenses that qualifies for that. So if you've been thinking about an 8mm 8 to 15, then maybe now's the time. Roy says the previous fisheye was the Eye of Hal from 2001 Space Odyssey. That's correct. That's right. No, the prize is not one of these lenses. Good point. I forgot about the prize draw.
No, we are poor. We can't give away lenses
We
for
can't.
free.
What we are going to give away is not one. Please hold that for me, my lovely assistant.
Oh, yes. It's literally the value of 815 lens.
Not two. Actually, yes, it is two. I've got not one, not two. Oh no, actually, it is two. Do you know
It is
that?
two. Yeah, okay. Okay. We're doing well today, aren't we? Very smooth. Criminals.
So we're going to do two winners for the latest two issues of the Nikon Owner magazine. Those are the goodies. If you would like to win, you can say, I would like to win, and then we'll chuck your name in the wheel of fortune names.
Not one, but two.
Not one, but two.
Okay, I'm slow today.
Yes,
That's fine.
it's okay, aren't we all? So those remind me not to forget about the draw.
Okay.
Because I'm obviously really tracking with what's going on. Paul made a very nice little pun there. He said the 8mm has to be assembled in the dark because it's a mushroom.
It is.
Yes. We've got a few mushroom lenses on here, actually. I did a video some time back when the Z6 first came out with, is it this one? Yes. And we called it the Tale of the Z and the Mushroom Lens because this little 6mm fisheye, very rare, 220-degree angle of view fisheye lens.
Mm-hmm.
Not doing it in the right sequence.
I thought you were going to say 220 only made.
No, it was actually not far off. It was 219.
Okay.
So, yeah, very close. That doesn't include the earlier prototypes.
Mm-hmm.
But that little one there, if I just take off the viewfinder.
It comes with its own viewfinder.
Yes, which you put on the hot shoe. So it looks like that. Now, it also has, as you can see here, built-in filters. So we've got our, you're right there.
It's this way.
Our green and red and everything filters. And it's quite, in fact, I don't know how easily you're going to be able to see through. Ooh, you see that? It's a bit red. You can see that just about. Oh, it's really hard to show that. So the filters are also built in this one, but when you look in the front, it's like a pinhole that's barely visible. So this beauty is about £30,000 that I'm holding there. Only £30,000.
I'll take two.
Yeah.
Okay. But
Except we don't have
did you
to.
mention that you have to lock up the shutter in order to use them?
So yes, if you were using one of these on a standard DSLR body, you'd have to lock up the mirror because obviously that protrusion would crash straight into the mirror otherwise. And that's why you need this external little on the hot shoe viewfinder.
So if you want to have a Leica experience on your Nikon body, you can get one of those.
Exactly. Now, the beauty of this is that you can, with a few caveats, use it with a Z camera with the FTZ because the FTZ allows enough clearance. I'm just doing some ASMR here. Allows just enough clearance for this to go into the camera. The only thing is you have to turn off the IBIS because if you've got a shaking, quaking shutter, you don't want it to crash into that piece of metal there.
There would be a nice scratch in the middle, isn't it?
Oh, painful, painful.
So we tried and we succeeded.
And we did remember to turn off the IBIS as well.
Yeah, try at your own risk.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Spend £30,000 on a lens.
Don't do it at home.
Try it.
Let professionals do that in a safe environment.
Yes. We like to do things like that just to shake it up a little bit.
Because it's not our equipment, it's a shop's equipment, so it's fine.
Now, I can't talk about 6mm fisheyes without also mentioning the beast, the 6mm f2.8, which we don't have here, funnily enough. I think that one's even rarer. There were only about 37 of them made.
That's true.
We kind of made the press with that one when we last had one.
Oh yes, that was what 5-6 years ago?
It might have been more, you know, but for having one that I think was one of the most expensive lenses on the market. Do you remember how much it was?
£100,000.
£100,000, yes.
It's not bad.
$6.
It's almost like $1 million, isn't it?
It kind of feels like it.
Yeah.
So super rare lens. We did actually have one that was on permanent loan to us from Nikon that we used to have on display in the
For
shop.
about 3-5 years or so,
Yeah, and then they took it back for an exhibition. and then someone knocked it over.
There was a little girl.
Little girl knocked it over and it got
Yeah.
scratched, which is very sad.
Yeah, didn't crack though.
It didn't.
No, just a scratch in the front.
It just goes to show that it was worth that £100,000.
Absolutely. I think when they first came out, you would have to order it directly from Nikon. So you have to call them and order it, and the price was about £25,000.
Do you know that in 1985, it was £7,377?
Oh, it's not bad. I like we having some trivia in there as well.
Yeah. In fact, I've got it this is from the 1st of April, 1985. This is the dealer price list. And there were some real gems available at that time. So the 6mm 2.8 was 7,300, as I said. I don't know if
That's cheap.
Uh-huh.
I mean, even like if you had inflation.
Do you think that's cheap? I don't think it's cheap.
Well, at the time, it was a lot of money.
Yes, exactly. And then the 8mm, I'm trying to understand the key here because it's got like 6 different symbols after it.
Is it all written in riddles?
No, it says like earns something, may not be included for multiple pricing. Anyway.
They didn't include filters with them. Or lens hoods.
The 8mm retailed for 1,071 in 1985.
Wow.
And the little 16mm fisheye retailed for £579, which hasn't changed that much over the years.
It's nice how equipment goes up in prices. I like that.
Sometimes, though.
Yeah. Normally it's opposite, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's a rarity thing. Like the 13mm 5.6. Do you remember the 13mm?
Oh, yes. That's a rare one.
So Gray's been looking for one for a while now because we had one.
We had one, yeah.
We sold it to a collector.
True.
Do you remember, it was Felix Kunz did a shoot with the Olympic rower.
Yes.
Peter.
Yes.
What's his surname? Don't remember. No. Anyway, lovely chap. Olympic gold medalist. He came into also a Nikon user, funnily enough. And Felix did a shoot with him with the 13mm because this chap is 6'4", 6'5", really tall, and had big long bow. If you've been a Nikon owner, Pete Reed, that's it. If you've been Google's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, you just type in Peter Raw UK and it gives you Pete Reed.
That was his name. And there were some wonderful shots in those in the early Nikon owner magazines. It was a few years back of him holding a boat and the full height of him all fitting in with that the 13mm lens.
That's true, yeah.
The beauty of the 13mm was that it was rectilinear, so it wasn't a fisheye. It was one of the widest rectilinear lenses that Nikon have ever made. For anyone who doesn't understand what that means, it literally means that it produces a square image that's not fisheye. It produces straight lines. I missed a couple of comments here, sorry. And I missed wonderful coffee fund contributions from Ian, Jeremy, and Terry. Thank you very much. Terry said, can we go back to 70s pricing, please? Could you imagine?
Imagine buying a house at 70s pricing nowadays as well.
Yeah. Well, my grandmother's house in Kensington, I think, was about 40,000 when they bought it. That was in the 50s.
And that's probably 40 million.
No, it's not quite that much, but yeah, it's a lot. Anyway, I don't live there. Nice part of the world, though. I was trying to find Norm was asking if that was dealer prices. No, that is the suggested price
for
RRPs. Customers. Technically SRP, as they're called, suggested retail price.
Okay, not recommended retail prices.
No. That's right. Roy said 13mm is not a fisheye. You got it. There is an issue with obviously lenses like this with no protection on the front. The story of the 6mm f2.8 is a classic example. You want to be very careful with something like this. But now we've got the 1424.
That's true.
With a filter system. So, I wonder if there's I think if I was going to spend £30,000 on a lens, I'd probably invest in a custom protective something for it.
And while they code those lenses, my advice, especially for lenses like 14 to 24, it used to be that the lens, it was just had a plain glass at the front element, and it would cost you £100 to replace if you scratch it. Yeah. Nowadays, it would cost you 60-70% of the cost of the brand new lens. So we do advise either use them very carefully or slap a filter on them if you can.
Yes, exactly. Oh, Dave, this is actually a very good point. Dave Walker says, money no object, I would try and get a 6mm. I wonder why we don't see such crazy lenses these days. Production cost versus return, I guess, but surely things would be no different in the 60s, 70s. Most of these lenses were made for specific purposes. So, for example, the 1200 to 1700 millimeter lens, which is a colossal thing. I wanted to find a picture of it for you guys, but I couldn't find it in the archives before the stream, was made specifically for photographing baseball. And I think there were like a handful of them made, and it was made specifically for a particular game.
And baseball in Japan is quite big as well, as well as in the United States.
That's very true.
But if you want to have a fun special lens, then Z-Noct 58 f/0.95 is one of those lenses.
If money was no object.
Exactly.
I think that's a good point. If money was no object, what specialist lens would you get? Tell us at the end, because we're going to talk about a few of these. You might change your mind before you make a final decision.
Don't buy that one yet.
David Berlin wants the 5cm 1.1. It's here, David. It's coming. Don't worry. Roy says, I have a gigantic filter for the 1424. They're not practical. No, that's fair enough. I can understand that. It would be an impractical thing to do.
Yeah, I've heard you can watch Sky from them because they're satellite shape.
Jeremy says, I was allowed to try some very rare lenses at a Nikon event back in the 1970s. I don't think they'd trust me today. Do you know, I don't know that they do much of the kind of specialist stuff. What we did have, when the Nikon school was open, you could go and try out, not rare lenses, but the ones that you can't really try out in store. For example, we don't have an 800mm on demo. Yeah. Or a 180 to 400, in fact. We don't have the room or the stock for that. So usually when we buy one of those in from Nikon, it's for a specific customer. Whereas the Nikon school, you used to be able to just go and try them out for the fun of it in Margaret Street. So I do miss that. I miss being able to do that and being able to send people down that way.
That's true. There's a lot of wildlife at Oxford Circus, isn't it?
So much wildlife there. Yes, Steve says my rarest lens is the Micro Nikkor 55 2.8 AF lens.
Oh, that one is rare. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, only ran for a couple of years. You're quite right, 2 or 3 years. And Ilmiko, sorry, I'm going backwards on the comments because I missed a bunch of them. His rarest lens is the 70 to 180, which is still another one which we love very, very much. Please do give us a thumbs up if you've just joined us. A few of you have just joined us. Give the stream a thumbs up. We would like to know that you like us, please.
If you do, of course.
Only if you do.
What is your rarest lens?
My rarest lens is a 90 that I own myself. Is a 1969 105 f2.5 production. It's in the Nickel P.
It's a nice one, yeah.
And it's converted to AI.
But so it's got pins in there then, if it's a P version?
No.
Because they had 45 2.8 P.
I know, but that's not what that
it's
means.
another one,
That's
okay.
a pancake.
Oh, because it was converted from pre-I. Is that what it is?
P is for penta. I mean, there's a longer. Pentox or penta. It means that it's the 5 elements. Shh, stop.
Okay.
Stop finishing my sentences. It means it's got 5 elements in however many groups. It's 3 groups. So there you go. On the older, you might find this interesting. On the older pre-AI lenses, where it said Nikon Nikkor P or Nikkor O or Nikkor S, these refer to the number of elements, and it's usually derived from Greek or Latin. So
octagon, hexagon,
exactly.
Yeah, okay.
So there we go. Brian says, £5, your dividend from the customer satisfaction index. Thank you very much. Someone's been paying attention to the
moon.
Nikon report. If you haven't seen our Nikon report yet, it was highly entertaining.
We keep delivering.
We try. So You and Me Both UK has 3 15mm f5.6s. Was one not enough? That's amazing. That's amazing. Yes, a 15mm 5.6 is another one that I don't actually know if we've got in stock, but we did have. Slightly less rare than the 15mm.
But still quite difficult to come by.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we talked about the 8mm. We talked about the 6mm.
Yes.
Now, there's another one that we have here. This is another one of those mirror up jobbies. This is the 10... You're right there?
Yep.
This is the 10mm f5.6. This is also a fisheye lens, gives a 180-degree view, and points for anyone who knows what the OP stands for.
And can explain it to us.
Yes, I mean, we know what it means, but I'm just intrigued to know who knows what it means. This one is one I haven't tried with the Z lens, but the reason that it was so difficult to make, I don't know if you can see that.
Let me get it very close.
Very, very close, so that you can see the top of it there. Do you see? Once we focus on it, there we go. So you see the shape of that top lens, that front element there, was incredibly difficult to produce because it's almost like a cone shape. It's not actually a standard round fisheye.
Mm-hmm.
You can take it closer. There you go. So you kind of get an idea there at different angles. So it's got this sort of wavy front element,
Yeah.
and that's what made it very difficult to produce. That's why it's super unusual. There were a couple of versions of it. This one, let's see. So it was a 5.6. I don't know if any of you have a Nikon pocketbook by Peter Bradsko. Just, you know, protect it with your life, because this is Gray's one. I've got one. I would never give it away or sell it to anyone. It was produced in 1968, the 10mm
Okay.
f5.6. And it ran, goodness me, until 1976. So it produces a 21mm diameter image. Nobody's told me what OP stands for, so I guess nobody knows. So do you want to explain it to the class?
Orthographic projection.
Orthographic projection, people.
Okay.
What does that mean in a nutshell?
So, assuming that standard fisheye lens renders image normally with a fisheye effect, the orthographic projection renders the object in the middle of the lens much closer than the rest of the image, and then it's kind of gradually the size of the objects kind of gradually falls off. So just to give you an example, and I know if you can show it, but
well, we can probably try.
we try
Let's
that?
just see. Yeah, see if you can
so
see
if we can try that. So
It's a very hands-on live stream. Yeah, so you can see. So the one on the on the right
is OP.
is no, the one on the right here.
Right, to me, yes. So yeah, that's a standard fisheye lens.
And the one on the left
OP.
is an OP. So you can see the difference there. You've got a little bit of reflection from the light. There you go. So you can see that with the OP, the whatever is in the outer corners becomes much smaller than what's in the central corner. Now, sorry, in the central portion of the frame. Now, another interesting thing is that because of the optical design of this lens, the light is still diffused entirely across the whole frame. So you don't get that sort of darker edge effect that you often get with a fisheye. Light is projected evenly across the image. That was the words I was trying to say. So although it is a fisheye lens, it's also a specialist fisheye lens in its own right. So there you go.
Wow,
Now,
impressive.
because of the delay here, Michael said orthographic projection. He got it right, as did Norm, which is very well done. Yes, points to you. Well done to both of you.
You're in the lead.
Yes, exactly. Now, a spherical. We were talking about a spherical. I don't know where Roy said a spherical new lenses use plastic instead. There are still lenses that use aspherical elements. Do you know what a spherical element is?
58 Noct used a spherical element compared to 51.2.
That's true.
And aspherical elements used to combat what they call it a spherical front lens element, which assures optimal correction for coma, particularly at maximum aperture.
Yeah, so chromatic aberration as opposed to chromatic aberration. We're getting very scientific here. We're going to put our glasses on and our little lab jackets and get a microscope out and just generate. So chromatic aberration you will normally see, particularly with fisheye lenses, very, very common, where you get sort of fringing or chroma colors looking slightly off, particularly in high contrast subjects. Whereas chromatic aberration comes about when you have points of light in the image, and rather than looking circular, they look sort of slightly blurry. So for example, if you were taking pictures of the stars, you would end up with a little tail on each of the stars. That's coma. So chromatic aberration is handled by having an aspherical element. Ooh, fancy.
Super cool.
Did you want to add anything to that?
No.
No. Okay. Thank you, Adam, for your contribution to the coffee fund. Ivar says the 300 f2 is more expensive. The 300 f2 was more expensive than the fisheye 6 f2.8. You have a price list from 1985. Interesting. I don't have a Japanese price list, and it might have been different between the UK and Japan, potentially, but that's interesting. I also didn't look up a 300 f2, but thank you for pointing that out. Very interesting. So let's just see. Paul's got scientist in his lab coat there. Yeah, no, but Helga, coma is also short for chromatic aberration. The chromatic aberration is the phenomenon. Chroma is the name of the little bloop, the little tail. So there you go. Norm asks, oh, I don't know the answer to that question, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to help, but why did Nikon market the 35 to 70 f2.8 AF as apochromatic, then drop the apo designation? No clue. Can find out and answer on another live stream. Actually, if I find out, I'll pop it in the comments below the stream later, but I don't know the answer to that question. Thank you, Alan, for your contribution to the Coffee Fund as well. Do you know the answer to that?
Great conversation we're having now.
Sorry, I'm having a conversation with Norm. It's just me and Norm here.
See, for me, it's like financial news. You see, I just doze off. APO, OP, you know.
Well, you don't know why Nikon dropped the... You're right there?
Yes.
Nikon dropped the apochromatic designation at the end of the 3570? No, I don't know. So, good question, Norm.
Yeah, but I'm looking at 300 f2 lens and looks fun. It's a big chunky lens. Almost looks like 300 2.8.
It does, but bigger, I think.
Bigger, yeah, massive lens hood as well.
I wonder, and it worked with teleconverters.
That's true, and they had this bit.
Ooh, I wonder, the 300 f2, because the 300 2.8's kind of been a standard design all the way through. I've not seen a 300 f2 in person.
No.
I wonder if maybe it was just too expensive to produce, or it was considered too big for that focal length.
Did you see the 1200 to 1700 zoom that Nikon made?
Yes, I was talking about that one earlier.
It's a chunky one, isn't
It's
it?
like this big.
It's a nice little bazooka.
Again, like the 800 5.6 manual focus.
That's true.
You want to grab the bazooka that we've got down there?
Oh, yes.
So
Look what I've got in here.
this is a 400 2.8. Now the rare thing about this one isn't the fact that it's just a 400 2.8. It's a 400 2.8 AIS ED lens. So at the time that these were coming out, we didn't see that many ED lenses. I'm trying to find the spec of it now while I'm talking to you. Hey, you can demonstrate. It's beautiful.
Chunky lens, isn't it?
Yeah, need a tripod and two hands for that one. So for example, I'm just trying to find 400 2.8 AIS came after the 3.5, the more common 3.5, of which they did quite a few productions of. And this one is 5 kilos. Are you feeling it? Are you feeling the burn?
I'm shaking right now.
Hang on. Can you see? Turn it front ways.
So 1, 2.
How many reps can you do? And that way. Ooh, very big. And stay like that. She's telling you to stay like that. Stay. So the 400 to, you can hand hold it with a camera, add a D6 onto that and see how you feel, or even an F5 and see how you get on.
I can't feel my hands right now.
No. So the 400 f2.8, there were only 2,500 made. Whereas the 3.5, they did several iterations. The last AIS version, they made 8,000. So obviously it was more unusual. I've never seen one in this kind of condition. This looks like it was honestly never used by whoever had it. We do see a few of those longer AI and AIS lenses. The one that we see quite a lot is the 500 f4P.
Oh, yes.
The
Those
AI.
They do come in quite often.
They do. And they tend to be very well used. I think they were kind of like considered a bit of a go-to because they were a relatively lightweight 500mm lens. This one's a bit more of a beast.
They're not being used very often nowadays. I think it's mostly by cinematographers, isn't it?
Yeah. John says, I think my wife would say no to that 400 2.8. I would too.
Me too.
Oh my goodness. So Nick Can says, I had one of those 400 2.8 AISs, was robbed at a ground, so it was stolen.
Oh dear.
Oh dear. Yes. Well, I mean, they have to have been quite a strong thief to have carried
That's
one
true.
of those away. By the time you've put that in its travel case, which is the big metal trunk cases, it probably weighs about 7 or 8 kilos, doesn't it? But yes, beautiful optics. I think, you know, at the time, long telephoto lenses that were particularly sharp were harder, slightly harder to produce. And Nikon just got better and better at it through the years. I don't know what other brands did in terms of those long lenses at all. James says, as a photojournalist, I was able to use the 8mm f2.8, had built-in filters on an internal reel and produced a circular image. So you got to use one in the field. That's quite interesting. I haven't actually seen any, apart from online, obviously. I haven't seen anyone using it out and about, if you like.
I know someone who used the 6mm, I think, to photograph inside the pipes for one of those big construction companies. So, yeah.
Interesting. And I guess if for those situations, circular image is completely fine.
And also under the aircraft. So that's another use of that lens. I mean, they had a specific aircraft camera, but I know that someone used it actually attached it to the aircraft and took some satellite pictures.
Wow, that's cool. And so that was the 8mm, was it?
I think that one was for 6mm, but
the
8mm was used in the pipes, yeah.
There we go. So back to the fisheyes. We're just going to jump around on the focal lengths here because why not? I have an even rarer 7.5 f5.6 fisheye. So we had the 8mm, we had the 6mm, both the 2.8 and the 5.6, but we also had a 7.5 millimeter. Now this one I think was just rare because of the focal length of it, more than anything else. And again, it's one of those internal mounting versions. If you hold it, I'm going to get my little reference guide out here and find it. There we go. Was produced just for 4.5 years, actually slightly less than that. And I can't quite understand how many there were made, but about 2,000 of them. Now, it was a replacement as a faster successor to the 8mm lens. The 8mm, not the 2.8, but the f8, which was around before that. Because we've got the 2.8, but the f8, the 8mm f8 was a smaller, slightly more practical lens, let's say. So it came out as a successor to that. And that was discontinued in 1970.
I'm learning a lot today.
Yes, so I'm going to quiz you at the end of this.
Please don't.
Also 180-degree angle of view. So obviously that was the way that they were done. Baxter says Canon went to FL elements early on, so a lot of sports photographers moved over to Canon due to the weight savings over Nikkor lenses. Interesting. Late 80s, you're saying. That is interesting because we didn't start to see sort of FL lenses until just a few years ago.
That's true.
Which is interesting. Ed says, I can carry the 400 if you give it to me for my birthday. Well, we'd love to. When's your birthday? Probably won't promise a 400mm if I'm honest. Ivar says that the 300 f2 came with a dedicated teleconverter. So it was a TC14C and a trunk case. And he has one. I really have one in mint condition, a 300 f2. Wow.
Incredible.
Very nice. Hang on to that. That's very nice indeed.
We'll be worth billions in a couple of years.
Yeah. Now, just to bring the conversation to the modern age, Nick Can says, will you see Nikon produce a native Z mount 120 to 300 2.8 or 180 to 400 f4? We're talking about long telephotos. I don't see why not, to be honest.
I agree.
I know that on the roadmap we've got the 200 to 600 and the 100 to 400. What do we think?
I think that 120 to 300 lens is a new generation of lenses. The ones that were designed on computer with all the simulations instead of the old-fashioned way where it would take 10 years to produce the lens.
Yes.
So in terms of this, optically, it's superior than previous generations of lenses. So in terms of this, I personally think that they don't really need to reinvent the wheel here and design completely new lens. Yeah. Just slap a Z mount on it and recalibrate for the flange distance, and I think they will be ready to go.
Potentially could be as simple as that.
Absolutely.
That would be nice. It would be nice if we start to see a lot of the kind of old faithful lenses that we know and love in the Z mount. Obviously, we've got the wide end covered pretty well now, so it's the longer end that we need. Well,
Tokyo Olympics in July. Yes. I think this is a good indication of us starting to see long lenses at last being released.
Yeah, exactly. Wakabuti says, I think camera companies like Nikon would do themselves and photography as an art a huge favor if they ditched the plastic zoom kit lenses and released well-built primes with an aperture of f2 or so. I both agree and disagree with that. I think that it would be lovely to have the option. Reason being that a lot of people, when they buy a camera for the first time, they don't necessarily want a prime. I mean, I've got a lot of friends, family members who've gotten into photography, and if they're presented with a prime, although it forces them to learn, it may also overly frustrate them.
Yeah, it's the economics of selling entry-level products. They look by the numbers. It's not about us enthusiasts and photography lovers.
Yes,
it's about selling as cost effectively as possible. So first camera and the first lens to start with. That's the thing. So it's just they sell in millions of those, and while we would want them to have prime lenses, it highly likely won't happen.
Yes. Exactly, I agree. Roy says NASA didn't use Canon because their FL lenses shatter easily. That's actually quite interesting. Good
And
to
then
know.
NASA and Nikon starts at the same letter.
Yes, so they thought, that makes it easy.
Exactly. It's a very scientific approach to choosing photography brands
Oh
to be
dear.
used in space.
Dixon has a few radioactive Nikkor lenses.
Nice. From Chernobyl?
Maybe. Thank you, Matt, for your contribution to the coffee fund as well.
Thank you.
Baxter said NASA only used Canon glass on the ground. 1200 5.6 tracking for the launch. Yes, so fragile fluorite is a downside of FL glass.
Not good enough to go to space, isn't it?
Not to go into space.
We actually had F3 that went to space, didn't we?
Yes, we did. I don't know. We must have sold it because I haven't seen it.
That was a fun camera. Yeah.
It's nice to have that little bit of history with it as well. Do give us a thumbs up. 104 of you. Please give us a thumbs up. The other 81 of you, there you go, are doing a great job. Thank you so much for all of your likes and so far all of your contributions to the coffee fund as well. And hello, Martin, who said a very specific hello to me. All right, so let's move away from the fisheyes now. I think we've covered all the fisheyes we can possibly cover.
Okay.
We don't have a Noct. I wanted to talk about the Noct, but we didn't have one. We actually had a couple. It's been a while since we've had a couple now. We've sold all of them, and I'm not talking about obviously the Z mount Noct. I'm talking about the original
1.2.
Yes. So what can you tell us about the 1.2, Con?
Well, the funny thing, I thought, well, why would you buy 5812 apart of it being rare and collectible? And obviously they didn't produce many.
No.
It's actually the main difference is a spherical element. So the lens wasn't actually designed for, let's say, people photography. It was designed for night photography.
Right.
And the spherical element comes into correction of coma. Was it reflections? Yeah. And also, for night sky photography. So when we talked about whether the star on a normal lens would look, not in the center of the frame, but on the edges of the frame, would look like a coma, effectively.
Yes.
So not a round object. The spherical element will combat this and will make a star look like a point instead of a coma. So that's really is the main difference between the two. If you're into portrait photography, I wouldn't buy 58 1.2 over 51.2.
No, but
I mean, it distorts less a little bit. That's another thing.
And that's a very good point, because I think a lot of people maybe buy it now for the kind of wow factor. It's a Noct and that's rare. And those are what, 4,000, 3,000, 3,500?
They are expensive.
Something like that when they usually turn up. Obviously, Nikon but designed the 58 f1.4G on the concept of the 58 1.2. But that wasn't specifically a Noct lens. That was much more versatile, designed for portraits, things like that.
And nowadays you have obviously 51.2 Z lens and 58 Noct lens as well for Z mounts.
Yeah.
In terms of this, if you're looking for lens now, for the optical performance, definitely go with the Z. But the older lenses, they have really nice rendering.
Yeah.
And they're much smaller as well.
Exactly, smaller and lighter, because even the 58 Noct, if we had one, it would be great, but it's, this big. The Z lens equivalent is like this big. It's also 8.5 grand, so go figure. Helga says Nikon ED glass was much more mechanically stable than FL elements with better thermal characteristics. That's why they wouldn't sell ED glass to Canon, hence the white Canon lenses. There we go. There was another comment that I wanted to read, but I just need to find it. Nick Can says, love my F-mount glass, but only switch to Z with the Z9, but will keep my F-mount long lenses. That's fair enough.
That's a good way to transition.
I think so. Keeping your what's available now in the Z mount, I don't really see the benefit of using the wider F-mount lenses on the Z camera.
What, like 14 to 24?
Yeah, like why use the F-mount version?
Oh yeah, over the existing one, because the Z version is on another level.
Yeah, and the same with the 20, for example. The 20 was always one of my favorites, and the 35. Favorite lenses, but now with the Z mount versions being so good, I almost wonder what's the point in keeping them.
So when you're upgrading, replace the lenses that already exist in Nikon lineup, Z lineup, and then whatever is not replaced, keep your F mount versions until they release the updates for those.
Yes, Exactly. Nick says, do you ever want to not sell super rare special lenses and keep them for your collection? We do that sometimes. If there are lenses that we absolutely, we've really struggled to get hold of because we've had to source it in Japan or something like that, or we've had a collector sell us something, sometimes we will keep it and not put it up for sale. Same with cameras as well. There are special edition rangefinders
That's true.
and things that we just won't part with.
It was the Nikon F Sapporo Olympics version.
The
That one.
Sapporo, yeah,
Yeah.
never going to sell that one.
Nope.
I mean, if the price is right.
That's true. Everything's for sale.
Everything's for sale.
But I think they were only 30 made when they.
It was a very small number, and I'd have to ask Gray because I don't remember. But yes, Matt, when Matt Granger came the first time,
Yes.
he had a whole tour. He got
That's
to
true.
pick up the Sapporo and things like that. I'm pretty sure it's in that video of his there. Roy says the old Nox are really overpriced now. Well, I don't know. I think for rarity value.
Yeah, it's nowadays it's got collector's value. So yes, in terms of just based on optical performance, of course the current lenses are better.
Yeah, and David Diaz says, what's the average price? It is 3,500 to 4,000. That's what they tend to be. They're never over 4,000. There's also two versions. There's the AI and then the AIS. So AIs are, I'd say, slightly less desirable. Last AI we had, I think, was 3,200. It wasn't mint. It was close to it, though. So something like that. But still more than half the price of the Z version. One day, we are going to have to get a Noct Z and do a
Sounds good.
comparison.
Shoot some wildlife video with it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I think that'd be great. Manual focus.
Trekking
Woo!
in continuous high-speed mode.
I think it would be a great lens for astrophotography, actually.
That sounds like fun, yeah.
I think that's probably the only use that I would, and portraits, but
I have a question. Where do you do astrophotography in UK? Because I've looked at this light pollution map. And there's literally like 2 places, somewhere in the middle of nowhere.
I think it depends on what you're trying to take pictures of.
Yeah.
If you are trying to get the Milky Way, there's very specific points.
You have to travel somewhere.
Yes.
Not London.
No.
Okay.
Unfortunately not. Can't do it in your back garden.
That's true.
I'm quite lucky. I live quite close to one of the Milky Way points, and also the.
Was it a part of decision-making process where to move?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. For all the astrophotography I do. No, but when I did that astrophotography live stream during lockdown, and thanks to Steve who's watching for your help with that one, that all those pictures were taken in my garden or at the end of the road, where there's virtually no light pollution. Which is nice.
It is nice.
You can also see more with the camera than with the naked eye. So, I couldn't see as many stars as the camera managed to pick up, which was pretty cool.
So not from Pimlico?
No.
Okay.
I didn't shoot in Pimlico. You can't do astrophotography in Pimlico, I don't think. There was a very popular Nikon owner workshop that Mike used to do, which was, astrophotography in London. And they would go out to somewhere. It was like in the middle of a park somewhere. It might have even been Hyde Park, I'm not sure. At night. Planetarium.
Shoot inside it.
Where they managed to get some shots, but anyway, it's a challenge, that's for sure.
You have to know your places.
Yes, you do. Johnny English 2020, love your username, says there was a 58 Noct from Hong Kong. They wanted 16 grand for it. That's a bit pricey, I think.
Not bad.
Yeah. Dave says, I have the 10.5 DX fisheye still to try on my Z6 with the FTZ. CA is a bit of an issue with that lens, but hopefully future Z fisheye or a more likely zoom, like an 8 to 14 or 8 to 15, will address. That's a very good point.
That's the thing. They all have chromatic aberrations.
Yeah,
on fisheye.
Even the 8 to 15 does. At
That's
the
true.
circular end, you get a band of chromatic aberration around the fringe at 8mm, which is completely normal and unfortunately to be expected because you
for
are
this type of lens.
shooting at the edge of the glass, and that's also right in the center of the frame, so you can really see it.
That's why a lot of full frame lenses actually cover a larger area, but then full frame crops in, so you eliminate all the soft corners, etc. So if you look at, let's say, the small medium format like Fuji GFX or Hasselblad's, actually people adapted Nikon lenses or Canon lenses on those, and it would still cover the size of the medium format sensor. So, but what obviously camera manufacturers do to eliminate that problem of soft corners, they just make them larger and then full frame crops in effectively in the center. Or similar like if you would crop full frame lens on DX.
Yes. Oh, okay, there you go.
Yeah.
And fun fact about the 10.5 fisheye, actually,
Mm-hmm.
if you were to, and someone has done this, which is why I know, if you were to shave off the petal lens hood,
Yep.
it becomes an FX circular image lens. So there you go.
Nikon didn't really,
I didn't think that through.
spend much
Basically,
time with it.
they
Yeah.
took the design of the 10mm, which I now can't find. Did we
Yeah.
put it somewhere?
What?
Oh no, it's here. Sorry. There's a smaller version of this
No,
as
no,
well.
they took a design of 16mm fisheye, I think.
You think so?
Because it's the size of
Do you
16mm
think?
fisheye. Yeah.
But is it the same field of view as the 60mm
In my
fisheye?
opinion, yes.
Maybe it is.
So they just rebadged it, slap a new logo on it. That's it. I could be wrong, but
It's cheaper. I don't
yeah.
think it's the same,
They
but
look
it's
identical
similar.
in size, though.
They don't. A little bit, yeah, similar, but not the same. Dixon says, can the rangefinder lenses be adapted to Z cameras? I mean, I know that the Leica M mount rangefinder lenses can, so I'd imagine that maybe the F mount can. This is one we talked about a couple of weeks ago. This is the 5cm f3.5 macro lens or micro Nikkor. This is super rare, very tiny. You want to hold it up?
Yeah,
to the
I just
camera?
want to show the rear element, the size of the rear element. So I
Yeah.
think it's just going to be quite difficult to cover the full frame area with this lens.
Yes, it's so tiny, this little
Yeah.
5cm.
But in a crop mode, I guess you can, if someone manufactures some sort of medical adapter.
Potentially. But what size mount is the Leica M mount? Is it the same size or some bigger?
Was it M42, something like that?
So it's a little bit bigger?
I think it's a little bit bigger.
Right. So that was the 5cm 3.5, which I was going to talk about briefly, but I don't think it's in this book. Someone asked what this book is, just to reiterate.
Little red book.
The Little Red Book. It's the Nikon Pocket Book by Peter Braxko. And it's worth having one. They're like gold dust these days. So that was the 5cm 3.5, and it was a collapsible lens. I'm not going to be able to uncollapse it, so I'm not going to try. The other one that someone asked for earlier is the 5cm 1.1.
That's a fun lens.
Yes, it is. I need to take the.
So they made
lens
two
down.
versions of this with different mounts, isn't it?
They did. So this is what we call the exterior mount version. So this is the one where it goes onto the camera and the mount is actually outside when it goes on. There is an internal mounting version, external, sorry, I got that wrong. Internal mount version, which has a slightly deeper, it's a sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Bayonet.
Bayonet.
And this part isn't on it, essentially. That's the difference. We do actually have both versions, but that's that one there. This is a beautiful lens. If you follow me on Instagram, then you will have seen that I did some black and white film shots recently, and some color, actually, with this lens.
What camera did you use?
The SP.
SP, original SP.
I did. So that was fun. And it produces amazing bokeh. It's like it's very bubbly. It's like bubbles everywhere. So anyway, you can go check that out if that's of interest to you.
It's interesting how all the lenses render completely different from the current lenses, because now we went from into this kind of very clean looking image.
Everything is very clinically
Yeah,
sharp. And
exactly.
The bokeh points are circles.
Exactly.
Or
And
hexagons.
absolutely. And then you're looking at those lenses and they look like they have different character to them.
Yes.
So each lens is designed to produce certain look, not just to produce the best possible image quality in a way. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Good point. Helga says, I think like a screw mount was M39.
That's the one, yeah.
There you go.
Micro Four Thirds. That's what they. No, I'm kidding.
Yes.
We don't know like it.
Did you micro four thirds? What's that got to do with the price of fish? Carmine says, my Nikon 1000mm f11 reflex is my rarest lens. That's a very cool lens.
It's a nice chunky lens.
Told a story about that a few weeks back. Yeah, 1000mm, 500 reflex, both of those are quite rare because obviously they're a fixed focal length. They are super lightweight because they're mirror lenses and they only have one aperture. So with the 500 it's f8, with the 1000mm it's f11, and then you have to use ND filters in the rear to stop down essentially. Ed, you cannot buy this little book from us, no.
It's $1 million.
There's $1 billion. This one is Grays. I have one. That's it. We don't have any others. And I will not part with mine for love nor money.
But you know, the 1000mm lens came with its own kind of screen rod that would go into the manual focus ring. So you could focus it because the focusing ring is so big.
It is.
Yeah.
It's colossal. That's a very good point. Sam says you can get these for about £80 to £100 on Amazon.
Only.
So good. Bargain. Are the DC lenses considered rare nowadays? No, because they still produce, well, we believe they're discontinued because all the D lenses are discontinued in Japan. So we imagine that they will trickle through and be discontinued over here as well. We do still have at least, I think, one 135 f2D DC new. We are expecting at least one more 105 DC from Nikon, brand new. Hopefully someone's already ordered that, so it should be in soon. But they're not rare per se.
Yeah, and they don't make many, and the prices are slowly going up for the new equipment as well. So in some cases, the price between the D and the G version is very close.
Yeah, exactly. Now, if anyone else, for you, what's like the rarest lens that you've used, do you think?
The one that I had and used was 45 2.8 Pancake, the one that came with a FM3A
Oh, yes.
in
That's nice.
silver. So I think that's probably the rarest lens I had.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it and I sold it, but probably could get more money right now.
I
But
enjoyed it and I sold it. The black version you'd get more money for
it's
because that was rarer.
double of the cost of the silver one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Kotick Timmy says, was the 105 1.8 AIS rare? Not particularly. I mean, we've had those in fact, we've got them in stock, but they weren't rare. They were just expensive because the 2.5 was generally considered the more, I'd say, more generally known lens.
Well, Nick Walsh has mentioned Nikon 28 f 1.4D lens.
That is rare.
It is rare.
Yes. Have we had any experience with it? Not versus the new version.
No.
But separately, the old version was fine. A lot of people do quite like it. I personally just found it produced a lot of chromatic aberration.
I agree. Yeah.
A lot of chromatic aberration.
New one is a lot better. So for use, definitely go for the latest one. For the collector's value, I think it's actually dropped since the new one came out. So it stayed on the same level. Because it used to go for about 3,000 or so, and now I think probably around the same price.
I think slightly less than that, actually. Whereas the 1.4E, if you've got a compatible camera, is mind-blowing. As a 28mm lens, it's absolutely superb.
And that's coming back to the 28 1.4E, and then 105 1.4E, 120 to 300. Those are new generation of lenses.
Yes.
They effectively designed on the computer in some sort of software where they could emulate the way the lens would behave with the light in a computer. So those lenses are a lot easier and faster to design because you have to go through less amount of prototypes, but they're also a lot sharper. So in my opinion, let's say 28 1.4 could be released for Z. 105 1.4E as well. Why not? And then 120 to 300.
Yeah, exactly. It would be nice to have. Actually, I would love to have a 28 1.4 sort of design on the Z lens. That would probably become my replacement for the 35.
That's true. But then ideally, if they would release a 28 Pancake as well at the same time. So
well, that's due, isn't it? We've got a 28 and a 46, something like that.
I think so, yeah, 40mm or something like this. But that's the thing. For, let's say, our street light photographers, like Pancake would do the job, and for everyone else, 28 1.4.
Yeah, exactly. For us that like to shoot at 1.4, just wide open all the time, never stop down.
Why not?
So Ron's rarest lens is the 50 centimeter f5. Is that a 500 f5 reflex?
Before they went to millimeters? Yeah, they did centimeter lenses.
Was it an f5? Was it an f8, I thought?
Well,
I'd have to check that out. But anyway, sounds cool. Oh, no, I think it's the 5 centimeter. I don't know. Anyway, thank you, Ron, for that. And if you think the price of the 5 centimeter 1.1 is high, check out the price of the lens hood that goes with it. Yes, there are some very rare lens hoods. Just to finish off this exotic lens issue of the stream, the lens hoods, I don't have any here, but the lens hoods that have, for example, the Nikon, what they call the kite mark.
What?
Nippon Kogaku.
Nikon, okay,
Yeah.
Nippon Kogaku,
Without the words on it, but it's just got that little symbol. Or the ones that have the F script logo on them. Those are amongst some of the rarest lens hoods that were produced because they came out with the original lenses of the time, and they were usually dated sort of pre-1970. So they are super duper rare. We don't see many of them. You can buy a single lens hood like that sometimes for 100 to 200 pounds just for a hood.
Not bad.
The lens is not included in the price.
Yeah,
Right. I think that
it's a wrap.
covers it. Does it cover all the rare? Well, not all the
Not
rarities,
all of them.
but some of them, a lot of them. I mean, I could go through this book, bit by bit, and send everybody to sleep. But
Well,
I
we
don't want
talked about this 1200 to 1700 lens.
I
That
didn't
was
have a
fun.
picture of it. That's the problem. I don't have a picture of it. I wonder if I've got one in here. There's a 1200mm prime. Can you see? I don't know if you can see that. But can you see? Cover my face. No, wrong way.
Too bright,
It's
but-
too bright for that. But if you focus on it, then it will. If you get an idea, that is a. You see the size of the camera in comparison?
That's a big lens.
It's a very big lens. That's a 1200 f11. We don't have one of those. I think that the 1200 to 1700 is probably in the zooms somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there it is.
Wow.
You see that? We did have one of those. I think it was a special order for someone. Grace knows the
You
story.
probably photographed Death Star with it.
You could photograph the Death Star with it.
Okay.
Right, we're going to do our giveaway now. So I have to get the thing ready for that. Is it ready? Wow, so efficient. Oh, I didn't show any pictures.
What?
I had some beautiful pictures. I will show them. I can't do two things at once. It's asking too much of me. Oh dear, you're going to need to verify that I am who I say I am. Oh no, it believed me this time.
We all know who you are.
Normally it doesn't. Normally it asks me to verify that I'm a real person. Okay, I want to show you some of these, and I'm going to do that by being very prepared here. It's great. It's going so well.
Wow, so smooth.
I know. There it is.
Wow.
Oh my God, I'm sorry. I wasn't prepared at all. This is a beautiful Tony Hurst image of the 10mm f5.6, which we have shown you today, but that just looks so much nicer than what we've shown.
That's true. Sometimes when people don't talk about cameras unless they actually take pictures, they can get good results, isn't it? Yeah.
This is the 13mm f5.6 with its rear filters. This was the one that we talked about that was photographed with Pete Reed by Felix Kunz.
That was taken in my bathroom.
That one, very nice. There's also a Tony Hurst picture. No credit goes to Constantine. This is the Noct, for those of you that don't know what it looks like. This is a stunning image of the 58 1.2. And you can kind of get an idea of the size there. Then we have, this is the 5cm 1.1. This is the external mount version, not the one that we have. This one's a much nicer condition.
It's the same model, but a different sample.
Yeah, exactly. Then this
6
is
mil?
the glorious 6mm f2.8. So you can see relative to the camera what kind of size that lens is, and it also weighed an absolute ton. Gosh.
I like how he used wide angle perspective to take a picture of wide angle lens.
Yeah, exactly. Now this is one that we didn't talk about. We have this one in stock. This is the 105 UV lens. So this was a very specialist scientific lens.
So tell me briefly what UV is.
I mean, what it's used for, I don't know. It's UV light.
UV light. Okay, it captures UV light. Yeah, okay.
This is the 120 Medical Nikkor. And again, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. What was it for that we talked about it? Was it the macro lenses?
Yes. So effectively, it's got a built-in flash into the lens. And then you connect power pack to it.
Exactly. So it's got like a ring light in the lens. So those were the pictures that I should have shown you earlier that I forgot to. So well done me. Being prepared. Oh, right. Are we gonna do this thing? You ready?
Yep.
Prize winners. We're going to do two. First one's going to be for the latest issue. So the first winner is Darren.
Darren.
Yay. So Darren, you're going to win this one. Can you hold that? Thank you.
It's a different Darren from last time.
I think so.
Okay.
And then, for this one, we just have fun doing the spin the wheel thing. It's Ian. There we go. Well done, Ian. So both of you have won your respective magazines. Drop us an email to media@graysofwestminster.co.uk and we'll get those posted out to you. Right. I'm glad everyone liked the pictures that I showed as an afterthought instead of doing it during the stream as I was supposed to. Thank you very much. You're all very kind. Forgiving me for my shortcomings. That's it, really, isn't it?
Yes. We're done for today?
We're done for today. Don't forget, if you'd like to vote for us in Retailer of the Year, you can do so by just emailing info@bpinews.co.uk. We've got, I think, a few days left of that one. I actually haven't been told when the closing date is, but we really want to win. So if you can do that, that would be amazing. And that's it. Give us a thumbs up, a subscribe. We will see you for a what? It helps us a lot. It helps us a lot. It helps to recommend the stream to other people that might be interested in what we have to say, which is nice.
Yeah, we have a lot to say.
Apparently so.
Yes.
All right. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. We will see you next week for another stream. Thank you for joining us.
Bye-bye.
Bye.